Welcome to Mental Wealth, the podcast to invest in your mind. Here I will help you make sense of your mind and behaviours, giving you the tools to have your best life. There is so much to share, so let's get into this episode and explore another great topic. Hi, it's Alison here, and this is episode 1 of Mental Wealth. I am so happy that you have joined me. This podcast is brand new, although I've been producing a radio show called Making Sense for over a year now. I have so much to share with you over the coming episodes. So let's stick together, let's learn how we can have more freedom and live a life under your own terms. So in this episode, we're going to look at confidence and where it comes from. And to be able to do that, we need to understand the mind more. So by the end of this episode, you will have a new understanding or a reminder of how the mind interprets confidence. Although it is really important for us to keep in mind that we are all individuals and unique. So while I'm going to share some of the wiring of the mind, we need to keep that in mind. We are all unique and we all have our own ways of doing things. So in this episode, as I said, we're going to talk about what confidence actually is. We're going to look at ways that the mind gets in the way, and then we're going to start to look at how we can make the changes. So what are the things that we need to pay attention to? And it's so important that you know that you're not alone. So a lot of the things that I hear people talk about, we're all in it. We're all in this together. And one of the focuses for me for creating this podcast is wishing that I'd known a lot of this stuff when I was younger. Okay, so let's talk about confidence and what it actually is. It is a word that everyone knows and everyone talks about. Although, do you really know how to get more? One of the quickest ways to gain more confidence is to firstly understand more about the workings of the mind. I believe that if we understand more about the way that we are wired, we've got a greater chance of making changes. So let's start with that then. So you will know that we all have a fight, flight or freeze response to danger. This is normal. It comes from very olden days where we would have been crawling around in the jungle, and if our brains had heard or felt or seen something, it would have put us into some sort of response to make us take action. This part of the brain is very quick. It's actually 5 times quicker than any logic, and we need it. We need it for survival. The good thing is it's there to protect us. But for me, when we understand it a little bit more, we've got a greater chance of being able to make the changes that you might want. So if that sounds good, I've got 5 points that you need to know about confidence and how to build more. So let's get started. So point number 1, the mind is your number 1 fan. Your mind is actually your number 1 fan. So what does this actually mean? It means that it believes everything that you think or say to yourself and to anyone else. It is literally hanging on your every word. It is like it's sitting on your shoulder. So if we know that that's true about functioning of the mind, our first step is to make sure we are more aware of what it is that you are giving it to believe. So remembering that it believes everything. You're feeding your belief system with everything that you think or say. So if you drop something and then you say, "Oh, you idiot," your mind believes that this is true. Your mind takes everything literally to be the truth. Just like a very young child does. Number 2, your mind works well with repetition. You create a groove in your neural network with everything that you do. So when you've never done anything before, your mind has to create a groove in your neural network. It doesn't have any reference. It doesn't have any information in there. So you've got a groove in your neural network for all of your thinking, all of your behaving, all of your everything. So repetition creates these grooves, and it is these grooves that give us confidence, give us habit, give us patterns in the way that we were thinking. So we have to create paths in our minds for new things. And how we do that is through repetition, is through repeating maybe positive thought about yourself, maybe something that you want to do, maybe a belief that you can do something. But we've got to start it off from the beginning. Create a new path in your neural network. So we can't expect ourselves to be going round hoping to feel confident, but thinking bad things about ourselves, thinking negatively about ourselves. Hope this all makes sense. So my next point, number 3, is there's a part of your mind that doesn't know the difference between the past, present, and the future. Now this means that it is very common to get trapped in the past, where your mind thinks over something that has happened in the past, and while you're thinking about it, your mind thinks it's happening to you now. It will bring back any thoughts, any feelings, the whole visual memory, sometimes the sounds, sometimes even the taste and the smell from something of the past, and it can make it feel like it's all happening now. Now, this is obviously great for positive things, but the mind is much more likely to do that for things that were difficult, things that were maybe scary. Your mind is trying to help you by recalling these things, but I think it's really important that we remember that it doesn't know the difference between something that has happened in the past or something that hasn't happened in the future. When you think about it, your mind can give you the feeling as if it were happening right now, today. Number 4 is your mind's primary job is to protect you. It will and must give you a signal if it perceives danger. So I mentioned this earlier on. It's vital for survival. It will interpret things as a threat, which may not actually be a threat. So your mind is scanning constantly, looking for danger in situations. It's looking for something that's different or unfamiliar, and it will link it back to past experiences that are stored almost in your library. This part of the mind is called the limbic system, and it responds 5 times quicker than any logic, 5 times quicker than anything rational. Your mind will give you that feeling, that fight, flight or freeze, as I mentioned earlier. It might make you feel angry very quickly. It might make you feel like you want to run away, or it might make you freeze and not know what to do. But it's very quick. The external thing happens and boom, the feeling is there. But knowing this, firstly, knowing it's normal, firstly, knowing it is trying to protect you, and then we can start to think about how are we going to manage it? How are we going to work through techniques to be able to help us? And I'll be sharing that throughout this podcast. And number 5, the mind likes to take its time to make changes. It likes repetition. It prefers gentleness and awareness. Becoming aware and taking our time is critical to making changes. What I see a lot of people do is knowing that they have a lot of things that they should be changing, could be changing, must be changing, but they become overwhelmed. They become overwhelmed with how many things possibly that you should be doing to help yourself. So just by taking that action and being able to be mindful that we just need to do one small thing at a time, take small steps, pay attention to something, then we can slowly, gently start to make changes. I see people being very ambitious and very quick to want to change something. And actually we want to be able to do it gently, carefully, and with repetition, but it takes time. I'm living proof that the confidence I've got today has taken me time and exercises and perseverance and repetition to get there. So I want to encourage you to just take your time with some of these things, not to put yourself under a great deal of pressure and have it all changed all at once. Okay, so I've given you 5 things. Here's a quick reminder about what we've explored. Number 1, your mind is your number 1 fan, even though it can often be your worst enemy. And we'll be definitely coming back to this in future episodes. Number 2, you can pay better attention to your thoughts and check that you're repeating the good ones. Just by noticing that you're having negative thoughts is a start. Number 3, if you focus on the past and negative experiences, your mind will think that it is happening to you now. Number 4, it is normal to have an emotional response, the fight, flight or freeze. The trick is to manage it. And number 5, we can make changes, but just over time. As I said before, I'm proof of this, and I want to share with you over these future episodes how you can do that. Okay, so it's a short, sharp few pointers for this week to get us started. I've loved starting this journey with you, and I hope that you have got some new information to digest. In each episode, you can invest in your mind one step at a time. Please share this episode with anyone you know who might be struggling and looking for answers. I really appreciate you listening in. In the next episode, we're going to look at purpose. And this is another pillar of this podcast. So I will be starting to pick how we can make the changes that you want around your purpose and your direction in life. Thanks for listening. I hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening and sharing in this episode of Mental Wealth. Remember, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. My last question to you is, what is the one small thing that you can take action on from this episode? Message me on Instagram or through our website with questions you'd like me to explore. You'll find the links in the show notes. I'll be back with more tools and tips to make sense of your mind in the next episode. In the meantime, be kind to yourself. Bye for now.